August 27th Planning Board meeting. Just for everyone's edification, we have bare minimum here tonight. We have 4 members of the board, so if there is a vote, you will need us to basically all vote in favor of whatever your proposal is. Otherwise, you'll be back here next month and we'll be trying it again with hopefully a fuller group of board members. That being said, let's just get right into it. So I guess 49 Spring, is that BAR and Planning Board?
BAR, planning, he already has site plan.
Oh, yeah, he's a lawyer.
Take that and just
He's a
QBR Ventures. Floor is yours, Jamie.
Okay. Trying to see if I can.
So we had a work session 2 weeks ago, so hopefully all the
Right.
questions raised, you have
We had
satisfactory answers for us.
we had. I think the board was very much satisfied with the latest changes that we had made to the site elevation. You guys were looking. The board was looking to see for some materials. We had done a. We have a. This is the site elevation, the one that you see from down from Spring Street, from the bus stop, and we had looked into trying to break this elevation up, which we have created an indentation. We had this windows already, and we have also created like full-power window additional break in that elevation. And we have brought the materials, and then we kind of looking to have this kind of color combination. So we have the brick and we have the stucco that go with it. So that's what we're kind of, we figure we provide this picture that kind of gives the idea of the color combination we're trying to create. I know we had talked about kind of moving away from the
Existing building.
existing building.
Just close this out here, please.
Sure.
There you go, thanks. And just kind of scroll back for 1 second. Okay, so that is the right elevation again is the south elevation.
South elevation, yeah. I think that's the one that we kind of have been trying to work on.
And this the red brick you have there, that.
That is will be the base, and this will be this color here, and then that be that color brick, and then the field color will be this type of color.
So then 2 colors, the red and
Yes.
the sand, was it sand?
Sand dune.
Nope.
Sand dune.
Yeah.
And what's the stucco on the building next door? Is it the same?
It's like a, I think we do.
It's a lighter beige, right?
So yeah, it's like a beige. It's more like a
Okay.
sand white sandish color.
Okay.
Yeah, the big takeaway is make it different than the existing building.
Yeah, we didn't want it to
Yeah.
be too similar or too dissimilar, so I think feels like we kind of struck a good balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Mission brown on the shingles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Besides the brick, do you have any other materials or?
I mean, we have the stucco color in the roof material.
Nice to see the 2 side by side.
Yep.
Brick. Yes, sir. I like the light better. Sand.
It's a nice contrast to the dark brick, so we'll stick with sand and brick, and that's, we're getting a stucco, all right? That's not, we're not getting brick, we're getting stucco.
It's a veneer.
Veneer.
The same colors and everything. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Any other comments from the board? Anyone from the public care to speak to this application? Okay. That being said, can I have a motion to approve the architectural?
I'll move.
Jeff, a second.
I'll second the motion.
Bobby, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
got, last time was Atria, so that's planning and VR, so we'll just do that together. We'll combine that. Sing Sing Prison is both planning and VR, so we'll roll that.
That's fine.
Okay. So the other one that's still in VR is the QBR Ventures 17-19, 54 Narragansett.
Yes. Did you skip over? Oh. Sing Sing Prison. I'm sorry, Stuart, did you skip over the Sing Sing?
We're gonna get to it, yeah.
You're both,
We're gonna
if
come
you're
back.
VAR and planning, you're gonna be, we'll combine you during the planning.
Later, okay. I'm going to go back to.
And your name again, ma'am?
Hi, I'm Annie LaSalle. I'm here with QBR Ventures for 54 Narragansett.
Let's see, what is it? Totally blind.
One, two, that's right.
So at the work session 2 weeks ago, we kind of said, you know, bring in color samples, so that we kind of narrow that down. I think we pretty had a good
Yes.
look at what you proposed and.
Yes, so I can just give this out. So the front deck is going to be in this Trex material. The railing is going to be also in this Trex material. It's going to be white. I'm just going to get a sample of the white. These are the shingles that are going to be on the roof.
And as long as they're on the plan, which I'm assuming you made those notations? Okay.
For these materials?
Yeah.
Yes. I don't think the color is specified, but,
Yeah, typically we want on the plan, so if there was a, you know, again, a narrative to
okay,
accompany the actual sample so that we can have that for the
okay.
historical for the file, I guess.
Would that be something that I can,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Bring in
we're
as a
happy,
vision?
right,
Yeah.
we're happy to see this, just make sure that as these colors are kind of read into the record, that Jamie gets something in, you know, written form at the post-meeting.
this is going to be trim pieces for the portico in the front. And then, and here is the color of the siding. It's hardy.
Okay.
That's the exact color, but.
That's the exact color.
Okay, so let me just do this, we'll just read these, and we're talking about a pearl gray siding. That's what that looks like. You said, what's this plan? What's color
This is
again?
Winchester gray.
Winchester gray for the Trex decking. Okay, shingle is what color?
This is GAF pewter.
Okay, GAF, a pewter shingle, okay. And then you said the
This is-
AZAC and the rail
This is a Trex.
components will all be white.
White.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, good.
I like the color combo.
Any other questions from the board?
No, I think we covered it in the work session.
Yeah, that's what we really wanted, was the materials and the colors.
Okay. Any questions from the public with regard to this application? All right, there being no questions from the public, could I have a motion for approval?
I think it's motion to approve.
Okay, Bobby? Second, Jeff, all in favor? Aye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Michael, I think all the BARs are, you know, otherwise they're all
Yeah.
part of the planning board
everything else
application.
is planned. Okay, so let's toggle back then to Atria, 5-19, and that's combined with the planning and the.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Adam Wegstein from Hockerman, Tortorella and Wegstein. We've been here a couple of times, and we're back tonight to make the presentation regarding the architecture, because we really haven't gotten into that yet, and in particular to answer the question that the board had asked about the visibility of the cooling tower that will replace the existing units on the roof, and obviously to answer any questions you may have. We don't believe at this point there's very much in the way of outstanding engineering or planning issues, but certainly we can answer questions. And let me turn it over to the person you want to hear from, Mitch, who's the architect. We'll take you through it. He has materials, he has the renderings.
So for clarification, I saw a memo from the EAC, I think it was dated end of July.
Right. And I provided a copy of that.
Applicant
too, so
Request.
We did,
You
yes.
guys have it? Super.
We do, thank you.
Okay. Now, the only thing I saw in there was some talk about invasive plants. Other than that, it looked like it was pretty much they
Right.
were okay with
Correct.
Yes,
the proposed.
and we're fine with it.
Evening, Chairman and Board. I'm sorry. My name is Mitchell Levy with NDA Architects. I don't know if you'd like to go over the air handling, because I think that was one of the questions
Sure.
in doing that. So there's a replacement. We also have the MEP engineer here as well to answer any questions. So.
Do you want to make
Yeah,
them
that's
now?
fine, thank you very much. So, there was in a previous hearing, there was the question of the replacement of units and the sound to it, and these are the two existing units, which are in the center of the facility itself, which is, the pool is right here, where these are all solar panels, and this is the two units that are existing to be replaced. There's another unit that is over here. Which do I use to
You
forward?
just click. You just
Just
click and
click?
it goes.
Okay, so here's a replacement of where the unit is going, which is using the same dunnage itself on it, so we're, sorry, the mouse is floating. There's one that's being removed here and one that's larger that is being replaced right on the existing dunnage, which is still behind this screen and still in the center of the facility itself. So from the street, there is this one little area, which is, whoops, behind it, right here, there's a little, that's the approximate height from the street, right at the entry, which is basically the highest point from the atria entry point to it. So you can see it's very minimal to what is being seen from the street and doing it, so it's very little site interference to it.
The sound modeling that we saw the presentation at the previous meeting, that took into account, you know, the
Yes.
fact that there's no obstructions, or there's a line of sight to that from
Correct.
outside. Okay.
Yeah,
I think the main concern that I heard from the community members, or the neighbors, was the noise more than anything, but we
Correct,
appreciate
and
this.
I think what happens is our engineer is here, and he can tell you about the sound decibels to it. This one is a choir unit.
Right.
I don't know the exact numbers, but it's, he can answer exactly the numbers.
Yeah, we had a whole presentation. on it.
Right. I was gonna say that.
So
Yeah,
I don't know if
we need
it's
to
a choir or a
Yeah,
unit.
yeah.
Excuse me.
But I know someone wanted to see the height and, you know, the distance.
I think if there was a question from the.
Yeah, I guess, but this doesn't in any way change that sound analysis, that
No.
that there's a line of sight from the street.
No.
to that. Okay.
So, and that's pretty much, you know, from the engineering on that air handling unit. And getting back to which we presented originally as an overview, the addition to the building, which is in the back, we're matching the existing, everything to itself, where we have, basically, it's not a hardy plank, but it's a cementitious board that has a siding to it that's gonna match the existing. These are all existing photos to it. The existing roof shingle, barely, can't really see it, but it's on there, it's up there. The trim on the windows and the doors, and this is the upper end to it. So we're just matching in the back. If you have June's folder, I can pull up the extension of the elevation just so you can see it. It's all in the back with the front single story of the LG.
You need your mouse.
Right, so essentially,
Sorry.
you're kind of
So-
kind of blowing out the front, creating
Yeah,
a
so-
courtyard effect
Correct.
within the same vocabulary, sort of
All the same
height-wise.
vocabulary, same height, so. I think we can go back to the
June or May? It's June?
Yeah,
June's fine.
atria right in the center.
Let's
So 004 is the architecturals,
see, right there.
No, come on.
and then later on down is probably the sample board.
Okay, so this is the existing with the
Keep going.
views.
Are you looking for the sample board, or?
No, the sample board is right there.
Okay.
It's just looking for the elevations.
Yeah, they're on here.
Sorry if I'm blocking.
No, you're okay.
Sooner or later,
If we can,
It's probably just taking a minute to load.
Yeah.
yeah.
Something like that. See the drag on my thing. Maybe we'll get there eventually.
It's just a speed.
Yeah, it's just-
The upload.
I don't know what's going on.
Well, it was there.
So essentially, we're talking about three different elevations, a north, a south, and
Correct.
a easterly, because the
Right,
west is
memory-
incorporated into the building itself.
Right, the memory care is in the front, which is a single-story building, which is there existing, and there is right now a fence that goes around the courtyard, and we're just basically putting that, correct, there we go. Putting
I don't know if
it,
you
the
want-
building
it's sort of
itself.
Paper, I know where you did that.
I love paper. I
So
love
let's
paper.
start touring through this thing.
Thank you,
No.
Jay. Just close it out.
Technology, you gotta love it, right? Okay, so we use this one for the second. So basically, this is the addition, which is a single-story addition to the existing front of the building. So it's all matching to it, it's all gonna be the single units here. And then we're adding to the back here, this area, these two units right here, which is, this is an existing two-story, and we're just adding, this is the three-story section. And we're just adding a single loaded spot because this side we can't build on because of the cliff, basically. in the
So they're
back.
gonna be adjoining the existing structures?
Correct.
additions? Okay.
And
So
the only,
access.
there's gonna have a little bit of an access here, just to break it up, to break up the massing, and also to fit within the setbacks that we have here. So this is a little corridor that has a little jog to it, with some light going through it. So the colors itself are all the same. So, and it all has the same exact look as this on the units, with this color on the bottom, this color on the top, roofing and the windows itself. So, I just think the elevation should be.
For you guys, we didn't really cover any of this at the work session. I think the last time we spent
We did, it was on the other stuff.
There we go.
And this is a June submittal then?
Yeah.
That was, okay.
Yeah.
Have there
So-
been any additions since then?
No, no changes to it. So basically, this is the existing conditions to it, so we mirrored this, and the same thing on this side, match what it is. So just keeping it very simple and keeping it direct to what it is. Thank you very much.
So from a procedural standpoint, I'll ask the board if there's any other questions or comments on the BAR. If there are none. Okay. Anyone from the public here to speak to the architectural aspects of the application? Or, okay, and for that matter, the site plan. So if you're here, just please come up, speak, give us your name and address.
I really haven't said it, but my name is Dana White, I'm at 24 Ellis Place. My husband and I have a loved one in this facility in the memory care. And I was just wondering how the residents would be impacted by this. If he's right in the front, literally like, and I just was wondering, would they be moved or was there going to be any impact on the residents?
We'll ask the applicant. The applicant speak to that. So essentially, I guess the question is this going to be a phase thing where you take into consideration the residents and manage the?
Yes, my name's Mike Walrizak, I'm with Atria. I'm the Development Planning Director, and rest assured, we take a lot of pride in keeping up our buildings.
Oh, it's a great place.
And we do this, we have a whole team, it's an in-house team, and that is rare that the people leave the community when we do our projects. Right now, we've just finished a project in Great Neck. We're doing a project in Limerick. We've done a couple recent ones in Stamford and in Darien.
So it's not near the memory care, you're doing toward the back anyway.
No, Is your loved one in the memory care?
Yeah, he's right at
You
the.
know when you look out where the courtyard is?
Yes,
That courtyard, what we're doing is we're gonna be building, you know, creating an enclosed courtyard that isn't fenced in, it's, you know, it's being, each side is the building, but it's outside, okay? So we're gonna be attaching to that building. And it's gonna be phased. There may be a short time when the courtyard is gonna be as accessible, but when we put the building up, it'll actually be much more secure. And no one's gonna be, we occasionally have to, if it's gonna be disturbing, there may be one or two apartments that we will let basically not fill. You know, no one's gonna be kicked out of here while we do this.
no, I didn't know if he's gonna be
And-
moved, or he might be moved, or it's just change in heart.
There could be some cases where people have to, you know, move from one apartment temporarily, but I'm not foreseeing that in the memory care.
Okay.
You know, for instance, if we have, as we put the assisted living additions on, if there are units that are right at the end where someone might be bothered by the noise, then we'll try to encourage, you know, those people to move.
He's actually in the
Job
first
done.
unit of the memory care, the first room. So it's kind of, he kind of looks out on the entrance area, but you're not building near there.
No, we're building pretty much, where that fence is close to being the edge of the outside edge of.
It's the courtyard.
Yeah,
The courtyard.
it's a courtyard, and then we're creating an interior court.
So it sounds like the answer is that it's gonna be a well-managed process with a lot of accommodation to the residents. You guys, I have no doubt that it'll, you know, look great.
This is one of the least invasive of the projects that I'm working on right now, in that a lot of times we go right into the buildings, and what we do is when we do have to, we try to do this without cutting service levels of service off to our residents. So we take mini bites when we do a project and it affects the community. So we'll take a small portion. That's why it takes us a little bit longer to do our projects, because we're very cognizant of our residents.
So start to finish, you're estimating how many months to do this, or longer, or what's your sense of?
We are talking now about trying to do, it depends whether we do some things simultaneously, because this is so, and there's still some internal discussions, but what we're thinking now is that we're gonna just do them in quick succession as far as the outside and be building, because we're not so much inside in this building. You know, we do have some cosmetic things we're gonna do inside, like change carpeting and painting and things, which you normally do just to maintain a building. You know, but these are little add-ons. If you see the way that you just looked and saw the way that they're laid out, they're add-ons that we can go and actually build a large part of the building and have it all ready, and then open the door, and, you know, it's done, basically. So we're very confident that we can do this. Just to give you an example, I'm just 2/3 finished a 54 apartment addition in Newburyport, Massachusetts, which happens to be about 12 miles from my house. So I like to get there once in a while, since I'm on the road most of the time. And we have 100% occupancy in that building. So people, they won't take, you know, being put out in a situation like this. And that just gives you an indication of the care that we at least try to take when we're doing these projects.
Okay, super. Anyone else from the public care to speak to this application? All right,
Thank you.
From a procedural standpoint, I know we need to do, did we do site, we didn't do site plan.
No, so.
We have to do that, and
You
we can
did notice of intent, you're gonna declare that you are lead, you have to do the neg deck. You want to certify that it is consistent with the LWRP, site plan approval, BAR, and I think there's an excavation and fill
There is an
permit.
excavation permit. My understanding is that the tree permit and the stormwater, the MS4 officer will have to certify, although that's part of your site plan.
That's through the engineer, and the tree
Yeah.
permit would come through the building department.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, we're doing our, type 2 action, whatever it is, whatever we feel,
Unlisted, I think, was,
Yeah, it's
unlisted
unlisted.
with a neg deck.
Anything else, Brian, anything from your, I mean, it sounds like you guys
Yeah.
work together to solve some of those.
Right, and the applicant has been working, even since the last meeting, just chipping away at the remaining technical comments. So I mean, I'm comfortable with any outstanding comments being conditions. It's up to the board. If you guys are, they were pretty minor, and addressing them will really impact the final scope of the project.
Okay. So why don't we move on to site plan first? So I guess the first thing is make the secret determination.
Well, first declare yourself as lead, because,
Okay.
so if you could just do a motion for that.
So a motion to declare ourselves as lead agency.
I'll move.
Jeff, get a second?
I'll second.
Bob, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, okay.
Next, would be a motion, well, it's an unlisted action, but to declare this as a negative declaration.
Okay, so I'll call for a motion on the secret determination.
I'll move.
Jeff,
I'll second.
Bobby, all in favor? Aye. Okay. And then last but not least,
Well,
site plan, I guess.
before we get to site plan, let me just a motion that the action is consistent with the LWRP as pointed out in the submission by the EAC to this board.
That means that we're speaking to the fact that it's west of Route 9, which
Correct.
is sort of a critical environmental area.
Correct.
Okay.
So we just need a motion that you
I'll
accept that.
motion on that.
I'll move that it's consistent.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
And now will be
Carried.
site plan with the conditions as Brian mentioned.
That's great. So any condition, any remaining engineering issues will be dealt with conditionally post
Understood.
approval. Okay. Have a motion on the site plan.
I'll move.
Jeff,
I'll second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Great.
I just want to make sure, I apologize, you did vote on the architectural as well.
We're doing
I
it
did
now.
that.
Right now.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
I got a list here.
I didn't mean to jump the gun.
Now we can do Board of Architectural review.
Right, so with all the discussion that was just, presented, if there's any other questions, I think we asked public comment on BR?
We did.
Yeah, okay, great. So then I'd like to have a motion to approve the architectural.
I'll move.
Jeff,
I'll second it.
Bobby, all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
And the last will be the excavation and fill
Excellent.
permit.
We're doing excavation and fill for this, or?
Yes.
It's a planning board requirement to approve it.
Okay.
Then it gets issued through the.
Fair enough.
building department.
Okay, so the last but not least is this excavation and fill permit for the applicant. So can I have a motion?
I'll move.
Jeff?
I'll second.
Bobby, Dave, all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you very much. Just the procedure for the resolution, and I'm not trying to put pressure on your consultants, is presumably it gets drafted and brought back to your board, or?
It'll
how do
come
you-
back to this board for, at the September.
I'll probably see this resolution in September, but I'm assuming that gets
We'll work it, it'll be
shared
circulated
or-
around, and I'll work on it with Brian as
great.
well, and I'll get you a
Right.
copy out of him, and then
If there are any
September.
conditions, I'm
Yeah.
assuming they'll wind up in the resolution like
we'll
they
put it there
did.
anyway, and then for September, it should get signed.
Wonderful. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Okay. So we'll jump back to Sing Sing now, because that's what
Sorry about that.
Dana, that's you.
6-9, Keene Sing Sing Prison Museum. And again, this is BAR and Planning Board.
I'm here, Dana White, board member, Sing Sing Prison Museum project. I'm here for Jerry Fila. He was unable to come today. So, tell me what you want me to do.
I think we had a discussion, and I think there's
Michael, this has to get-
referral required.
This does require an EAC referral because it is in the, it is west of 9. So we do have the full EAF that was provided by Jerry Fiala back with the application. What I request, because I think the EAC will be meeting on, I think it's September 3rd. So if we could have this.
Tuesday, right?
That's a Tuesday. So we could present it to them at that meeting They come back with their determination with regard to the LWRP. We can then be back here at the next meeting to go forward with both the conditional use permit as we discussed, as well as the, whatever, with the net deck, that's the secret requirement that's required at that point. And we talked about this would likely be a segmented conditional permit, given the way the project is going to lay out.
Over several
That's
phases
correct.
as you guys get funding and all that kind of thing.
So I think that's what I would suggest and ask the board is if we can refer this to the EAC for their next meeting. We're going to have a couple based on tonight's agenda that will go to the EAC, but this way we can get this back quickly. This one I think should be a fairly straightforward for EAC because it's essentially internal work. So it does not directly involve, exterior, but to the extent that they have any comments, we should have them before we do our final vote.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Comments from anybody on the board, or?
I would just like to note that if any of you would like to tour the powerhouse in the 1825 cell block, we are having a tour September 20th. You are welcome to come. If you would like to come, I'm going to send you Hillary Stimple, I'm going to send her your contact, and you would email her. She works on the project with Brent Glass, our
Yeah, I
director.
remember, I think it was about a month back, Jerry had mentioned that he has to, basically, the challenge is, getting clearance, I guess, to get in. That's the biggest challenge.
Well,
But that's
I got
great,
it.
so.
Yeah, September 20th, mark it on your calendars. So you don't need anything else from us at this time?
No, thank you,
No, I
Dana.
think basically, it sounds like we're adjourning it till
The
next
September
month,
meeting.
subject to the
EAC.
EAC, looking at it.
So we're looking at maybe a vote at your next meeting?
Yes, I think
I think,
that's
unless
fine.
something pops up, I don't think there's really much else. Jerry's
No.
going to explain what the
Okay.
plan is, so.
Okay,
Great.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Next, 125 Main.
125 Main, 1-16. JB?
Let me, I'm trying to, this project we have presented to the board before. This was about amending site plan approval. Actually, this project is being under construction right now. The last time we were in front of the board, prior to the work session, we had gone for a variance, and we had gone to the zoning board for one of these apartments for the interpretation. It was agreed that we were gonna it was agreed that we were gonna remain or leave this area of the project as presently approved, which is for a restaurant or future restaurant, and then we were converting these two office spaces into dwelling units or apartments. So this will require to modify the conditional approval that is in place. We will point it out, as we did the last time, that there is a parking waiver in effect that actually is being reduced. And I think we discussed at the work session about making the parking waiver, not putting a 1-year limit like it had before.
The 2016 resolution, I saw that there was a condition that you were going to come back and kind of share with us
Right.
what the actual parking is that exists now versus, whatever we talked about in the
Right.
approval process or the design process.
And then we are, back here, we have reduced the amount of parking required.
So the question, again, the question is that we want to probably see information, I guess, a year from now, to say,
Okay,
this is how it is as built. So
Okay.
it's-
so
It's conditional.
we can do, okay. And I think that was,
So, is there a way we can structure it so it's,
1 year
So
seems to be.
it's actually follow up.
Yeah, I guess I would like to see at some point it become permanent. So, in other words, like, this board, this is a permanent, you know,
Structure, yes.
structure. It's not, you know, the parking conditions aren't gonna change that much, so after we see what it's like, you know, sort of just like a trial period, I think is what Mike's getting at.
Yeah, and I think the challenge too is, again, this sort of parking exemption, this parking waiver letter, you know, sooner or later, it's gonna, you know, basically just be a, you know, lint or dust or whatever, it's gonna blow away, 'cause it's been used so many times. So, you know, and again, part of it's the responsibility of the village to, you know, kind of spearhead some solutions, but, you know, we're still charged with, you know, our board is kind of tasked with, you know, enforcing the code, and, you know, if there's a condition on your approval, you know, we want some sort of ironclad type wording document that, you know, you report back to us in a year with, hey, these are the conditions now.
I mean, does a year, I mean, it's just, logistically, a year seems to be like, if that's what the board wants, I mean, we accept that, but should it be 3 years down the road, do we take a look at this? I mean, doesn't,
Well, I think we, you know, what we did in 16 was we set a year. I mean, I
Okay.
kind of want to be consistent about.
If you come back in a year and it really, the situation is as it is now, I would not see a reason that the board could at that point convert it essentially to a waiver without any limit on
Unconditional
it.
waiver, I
You know,
guess.
I mean, at that point.
okay.
The other issue, Michael, we had raised was with the recreation
Right,
fees.
so there is a condition in the 2016 resolution of the per unit fee of, I think, 7,500.
Correct.
So that will stay in place?
That would stay in place as well.
Yes.
That's some of the bad news.
I
you
can't
have to
affect
live with.
that.
So it would be added to the
You
two
can only
additional
ask.
units that are going.
Exactly.
Okay,
And affordability here, remind us again if
it's
if you're
one
providing
unit.
affordable.
It's 1 year.
One.
Of the two new ones, one of them will be affordable.
Yes, I mean, the total, right.
And that's on top of other affordable in the building already, or?
No, I mean, it's, we're going from 5 to 7.
They're going to fight, so they have to have the one.
Yeah.
So for clarification, we'll have one
Yeah.
affordable at whatever the AMI is.
And we'll provide the necessary restrictive covenants to JB so that that can all get executed and filed for the 1 unit.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board, or?
Oh, we got no issues with elevation change?
No, I think they're doing architectural, it's the second time. Any questions from the public with regard to 125 Main? Okay, that being said,
This
want to make
this would be a motion to both amend the previously approved site plan from 2016 as well as the previously approved conditional use permit with the condition that you put on it, and then that would just, it would amend the prior and will go part with a new resolution,
That includes the parking waiver.
The 1 year.
All four. Yep.
all folded in.
Okay, so that being said, the conditions that Stuart just spoke about, I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the conditions.
Bobby, get a second. David, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, JB. Not that you was the least, because we know you have many other things with us.
So, I think you're right up next, JB, 1416, Baker.
Michael, I know there were a lot of comments from the Keller
I
office.
was just
on
going to
this
say,
one, so-
because of some staff changes here, we have Keller Sessions getting
I should
involved with
wanted
the
to,
planning.
yeah, I wanted to address that.
You want to do that?
Before we do
Yeah.
that, just hopefully, you know, again, this is one of the, I think this is the first one where Brian's provided, I guess, a several-page memo that needs to get addressed, so. I'm assuming you have copies of that, JB?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of walk you through the,
I think the work session really spoke about the
elevation.
east elevation.
Yep.
There's some comments from Michael, who's not here tonight, she
Yeah,
mentioned.
that open area that she
Open
was
area.
concerned about.
I think that was sort of the big thing for us with the architectural.
And I think,
That was with the retaining wall that separated it from the valley area.
So coupling that
So we
with
kinda-
Brian's memo, I think.
we
Yeah,
kind
you
of,
have that on.
yeah, let me see.
Yeah.
It was completely open before, without the inside.
Yeah.
Looked like it was on stilts.
And I have from the, and I think the board member is not present today, but I wanted to bring up and show from, that this was the original approved project. I know there have been some question about the architectural the current architecture, how we got there. Just wanted to show that this was the original project that the planning board had approved. I guess this, I'm not sure how to make it zoom.
There's a plus and a minus up top.
Oh, there you go. That will do it, right?
It should have the Baker. Yeah, there you go.
We did start, I'm gonna get rid of this number note. So we are, doing to get to this. I'm trying to move it over this now.
And just as a kind of reminder, again, this is site plan and VAR, you're still on
Yes.
both.
So we are bringing the same
Is there a
finish-
marker that you can just drag on? It's like very small.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. There's, we're starting to bring the same kind of treatment that we have in the front to kind of do the same on the side. So it starts to look like a panel system. So it doesn't look like, yeah, or some sort of material. We haven't established the material yet, but we're trying to do that. Also, we, simplify the window details, and we are going to hardy plank and brick, like a brick veneer. So,
What? Did you change something where this is like offset now?
yes, we
What
did
was the
change-
reason for that? or-
We offset the building a little bit in order to reduce the square footage of the footprint. Yeah. And we will do either a flat roof or a small roof here. But talking about this elevation, I just wanted to address, I know we have comments, we got like 20 comments from calendar sessions. I just wanted to touch that a lot of the comments we're going to provide, a lot of them have to do with engineering and how we had the original seeker approval or endorsed by this planning board and how we're going to compare the two. So we're going to have the engineer bring the current footprint and apply it to that so that there can be a comparison between the two.
So your engineer's gonna do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, and just, I mean, and just so you know, it's a new seeker process, I mean, it
Right,
has,
but
does
I
have
think
history,
the
but
idea-
it's a
right.
new zone, it's a new
Well, but
footprint, new
Do
concept.
we want,
So
so I'm
we're-
just thinking, do we want to finish like the architectural, and then
Yeah.
Ron can kind of give us
Yeah.
kind of the bullet points of what the, the more substantial engineering comments are? Let's do that, because I don't want to have two things going back and forth. Let's finish with the architecture.
So the architecture, we are trying to, again, we're going to like a hardy plank panels and brick combination. We're simplifying the window details. And again, this is the street facade, the lower level where there's going to be access to the store.
Yeah, I don't like it either. You don't?
I kind of like it.
Oh, you like it?
Yeah.
Okay.
The question though, is that going to be sort of utilized as a deck, or is there going to be activity out there, or what's the thought?
It can be, right now we're just thinking of being a flat roof, but
That wouldn't be utilized by the occupants?
no, we don't have, it may be as a way to exit.
All right. And you said something about changing the square footage. What was the can you describe in more detail what the rationale or what led to that change?
Well, there, because of the number of units and the parking that we have, so this would have been, I mean, we would add 5 feet of square footage to the building, 2 stories up, if we can. We're trying to reduce the impact of the building, construction-wise and unit-wise as well.
Okay. So you just ran out of space.
And again, what the VR is charged with is, not too similar, not too dissimilar, trying to find a sort of a happy medium here. I mean, that's why I think that's kind of interesting.
Right.
My
And
personal.
And this here, we're gonna extend this wall, as we spoke during the work section, we're gonna extend the wall, so this is not gonna be as open, and we may introduce a window there into the retail space.
So I think Bob, you'd asked the question, is the material that you're using on the east side, is that a ventilated, is this going to be ventilated, or is that a
Yes.
solid?
No, it's
So
not
there'll
solid,
be
ventilated,
air movement
yeah.
between. And again, that material's going to be what?
We looking to be like a metal grid, like some sort of,
Not like a chain link fence, obviously.
no. It's more like
Kind of
a
aluminum or some sort
aluminum
of?
material, yeah.
What color were you thinking?
I mean, everything, it should be something that, originally we had like a grayish, so it's now black to contrast with the white of the trim and the brick.
Flows to what you have in the front, probably?
Yes,
It's a big improvement over the open space they had before.
Is the retaining wall on the Valve Lane property, is that level across the top, like what we're seeing here? Because I know you're basically gonna have like retaining walls back to back. with that
right.
property.
The wall is it is
Slope?
sloped a little bit, not much. But we can, for the next meeting, we can superimpose that there, so you can see the building wall.
So any other architectural here before we let Brian take a whack at the engineering points? Any other questions or comments? Or?
That was the big point, was the big opening thing.
Yeah, I think this is an improvement. I would, if you refine it further,
Okay.
you know, I don't know, it's an improvement to have some sort of lattice screen, something there. as
Maybe
opposed to
the scale
open.
of the screen and
Yeah, drill
changes a
down on the
little bit.
material you're using.
Yeah.
And again,
Okay.
part of what kind of transpired at the work session was we said, bring some samples in and speak to the samples, because that's going to,
Mhm.
the right color and the right material is going to make all the difference, I think, here.
Because it could be anything, right?
So have you given that some thought, or
We will bring the material.
for next time?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have, then any other, I mean, besides improving the front, I think we are, I mean, we have this big opening, there's not much, I mean, we thought about somehow reducing the size of the opening, but it doesn't work with the traffic and access, to have emergency trucks.
Yeah, you get 2 cars,
If you just change around the layout to bring the square footage forward, I know Mike says he likes the way it's offset, but I don't know, something is a little, but when you're looking at it head on, it looks a little odd.
Okay, we'll look into.
I don't know if you can reconfigure to.
I just think everything, a lot of what you see on Croton Avenue is very, linear in the sense that it's very square, very boxy. I mean, this kind of introduces a sort of different feel to Croton Avenue. You're near an intersection, so it's going to be prominent. I kind of think like what you kind of put together up on Camp Woods is interesting, and if, we get what, Camp Woods is going to be in some fashion here, I think that would be successful. I mean, again, just my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not a make or break for me, but.
Yeah. And again, materials, so for next month, have, tangible, tactile materials. So with that said, why don't we have Brian just kind of give us the bullet points on.
I mean, should we, because I should wanted to, I mean, do you want to go through engineering, or, I mean, we know the engineering
Yeah,
that needs to be done?
Just kind of a broad stroke, the engineering needs to be completed and coordinated with the new architectural layout. But that joins the seeker process, and before a determination can be made, we'd like to see the EAF completed and the stormwater, the SWIP completed, just so it's buttoned up and we know how the drainage is being handled, and other seeker issues or just information to be provided, things like the lighting plan and any landscaping should be provided and reviewed before any.
Right,
that
I
was,
don't- we really haven't spent a lot of time on lighting or
Yeah.
planting or signage.
we did, okay, so we have the whole, we will resubmit the whole idea and the process that we've been discussing with this project, is like, we'll submit the package, but hopefully the secret finding that we did in February 2018 is still hold. I mean,
you
it
could
has to be
say-
amended, but,
I don't, it's a new zone, a new building, new SWIP. I mean, there's the whole, you might get the same approval, but it's a whole new review process. I don't see how you
but
could.
at the same, I mean, the whole process that we're trying to go through this, when we went from the older building to this, is, and part of why my footprint is like this, is that we were trying to maintain, since a lot of, there was a big financial investment in the seeker and all the findings before, and that went through all the building, all the process, so we're trying to utilize the same findings, and I think that's,
I don't think that Brian's saying that you may not get to the same place at the end.
Right, yeah.
The point is, though,
right,
you already did a long-form EAF, we just want the long-form EAF to deal with this particular zone that
okay,
is
so
now.
amended, it's the amended.
What I'm hearing is that it's just taking out the old submission, updating it, changing dates, changing whatever you need to do to address Brian's concerns.
For instance, like the lighting plan from the old building might not be
Right.
applicable because now you have a covered
Right,
parking.
no, that's-
So
right,
I
that's-
don't see how
yeah,
they're
yeah.
really, we'll need a new lighting plan and assuming it's all fine.
Again, there are no variances required, you guys are compliant here with
Right.
all the setbacks,
There's no
back
variances required,
requirements,
no.
Right.
which is great. I mean, that
Yeah.
takes certainly some unknowns off the table. And I think the only other update was that DOT, that section of 133 is not subject to DOT, so you'd be dealing with the village of Austin.
Yes, okay, that was, right,
So that's some other good news.
We got a letter
Yes.
from that back in 2016,
Yes.
so that's.
okay.
So some good, some additional work, but it seems like we're heading in the right direction.
Michael, one thing we didn't discuss when this was on before, in 2016, is the issue again dealing with, recreation parkland.
Mhm.
We are, JB, and I know there's something Brian pointed out, is it 10 or 12 units? Because was this the one where I think the number was, it wasn't said specifically as to the number of units? I think it
I
was.
believe it was
12.
different in the application
Yeah.
or on the plan.
So whatever it is, I just, JB, under 270-52H, it's before the planning board can approve a site plan containing residential units. The site plan shall also show, when required by the board, park or parks suitably located. So just to make sure, because in the event that there's an issue, that there may be a rec fee. I'm not saying there will be, but it's just something to consider, that we have there, so.
All right, so we will, 252 each.
Yeah.
So then, will the next step be the board declaring lead agency for this project? Do we need to do that again?
I think you actually, you know what, my thought is that you did it with the prior one, and I would think that there's no reason it couldn't carry over, that you're still lead for this particular project. So I would say
Is this
that you
a
are.
new application, or is it just?
We're carrying it under the same, the old number, under this 2016 number. It's just now with the zoning change, they've come back with the plan as presented
I
now.
don't think anybody would have an objection to voting to declare
I
ourselves
should-
lead agency.
okay,
again
just-
tonight.
just wanna
That's
clarify that.
procedurally a
So
better
then-
thing to do.
We're doing an amended site plan.
Well, you never got site plan approval in the first place. What you got was you got the neg deck, because we
Neg deck.
checked for that,
Yeah.
and there was never a site plan approval, so technically, there's no site plan to amend. We looked, and we looked back and forth. I had thought there was two,
Yeah, because we referred it to the zoning board, and that's where sort of this all ground was.
right, but
Yes.
we all checked, and we didn't see a site plan approval. We saw the neg deck was done.
And seeker was the seeker fund, I guess, which is.
Which was the neg deck.
We probably just want to just take a vote now to
You could
declare
declare
ourselves
lead,
lead agency again, just to make it clean, because
you could declare yourself lead.
the biggest concern is sort of like this sort of So the chain's kind of broken here,
Right.
with some staff changes and other issues we're dealing with.
Right, so,
Let's kind of at least say we're declared lead agency again, that way you guys are looking to us for,
and just to confirm, so then we are going with the same application number? or-
You're under the same application number as before, which was the 14-16. So you're not.
we wouldn't necessarily collect another fee unless there's other engineering or
Yeah.
other reimbursables that arise out of the review of your application.
Okay.
I don't know if there was ever a BAR number assigned to this one. I remember there was a question, so I'm not saying there's a fee for it, but I'm just saying we'll assign a BAR number so we can just carry it and we know, because we usually carry the two separate numbers. But the board can certainly vote tonight to declare themselves as
So I
lead
think we
for
want
this
to do that. I
project.
think we'll definitely see you back here in September, so that
Mhm.
said, call for a vote to declare ourselves lead agency. Jeff? Bobby? All in favor? Aye? Great. Okay, and then we'll see you back here next month?
Thanks, Chief.
Because if we have a work session.
Yeah, I don't,
Oh,
is there a thought, I don't know if we've nailed down a work session date yet, but.
We haven't, but usually we were doing it
Second Monday, right?
second Monday. Now, the second Monday this time will be,
At the ninth?
well, actually, the first Monday would be the ninth. We would do it the first one. So we could do it, we have an HPC meeting that night, we could use 2 rooms. So
All right.
you want to think about September 9th possibly
Okay.
as a work session.
Because the September 24th would be our regularly
Your regular
scheduled
meeting.
planning board and TDR meeting. So, okay, all right, so we'll, that'll get posted on the.
We'll let you know, Jamie, if we can do it that night.
Okay, great, thanks, Jay. So, next applicant is 7-19 Birchbrook Manor. Doesn't show up.
Good evening, Dave Patrick from Cuddy and Fader. Joined tonight by Anthony Guccione from JMC, John Fry, the architect, and Dave Canlaji of Kapoor. We've been in front of this board twice now, one for an informal presentation, and then for the work session. So I'm not sure if you guys want me to start off with a little background on the application for the public's sake, or if you guys want to jump in any specific questions that were raised previously.
And Michael, we did get comments from
Right,
Keller.
this is another one, to say the engineers sort of started a review memo. I'm assuming you guys have a copy of that?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Great. I know we need to declare ourselves lead agency tonight. Brian can certainly give us the highlights of the engineering. Not sure if we're going to spend a lot of time on architecture tonight, because I think we want to get the kind of site plan nailed down.
Understood. And to that vein, I know your intent to circulate the intent to be lead agency. We're also asking for a referral to the zoning board of appeals. We met with the building inspector, and he confirmed that we needed a variance for the subdivision. I know there was a comment in the planning memo regarding an additional variance. The building inspector confirmed earlier today that that variance won't be necessary. There was a discrepancy between building width and building length, so we have some, can support some backup if necessary, but hoping to get a referral to the zoning board as well, so we can hopefully have this concurrently reviewed.
I don't know if he wants to just give a short overview.
Give us the shorts.
Yeah.
Just give us
Sure.
an overview of where you are. I mean, again, because this is your first official
Yeah, exactly.
meeting.
Yep. So currently there's the premise is a 4.82 acre lot. We're proposing to subdivide and separate, that's not it, I don't know if we can,
The mouse is on, thing right next to you.
Sooner or later, we're going to get in sync with this whole process.
Oh, sorry.
The next guy's going to come in and have the mouse in hand, and we're going to roll right along.
So here's the existing premises. It's roughly 4.82 acres. We're proposing to subdivide this portion, the eastern portion, which is about 1.12 acres, and develop 5 townhouse-style residential units on that site with access to the site from Woolman Road. We're intending to, hopefully accommodate the residential aspect of the neighborhood and, use a natural buffer to really reduce any sort of, impact that this would create. Really intending for a low-impact development, which I think we're achieving. Yeah, that's the rough act. I don't know
which one you're on.
Yeah,
Please select the page.
I can't read that.
Yeah, I can't either.
By the way, C100.
Maybe you should turn the mouse on.
Keep going up.
So again, Brian's from Kellett Sessions has provided a memo, engineering sort of site plan, all those aspects. I mean, in conjunction with your presentation, I guess Brian, do you want to give us the kind of the broad brush?
Sure. I mean, the most unique feature of this application is that the municipal boundary for Briarcliff is that gray diagonal line. So it gets a little interesting because while the village of Ossining might not have a wetland setback ordinance, Briarcliff does. So we would wait to hear from Briarcliff to see what level of permitting and restrictions they might have for developing, because there's a stream that kind of, you can call it daylights, and there's a kind of runs vertically up the page off of the site, but some of the improvements might be within the regulated setback. So that's yet to be determined.
So referral to Briarcliff as a effective.
Yeah, through the secret process, there'll be.
And this should be referred to the Village of Briarcliff Manor through the GML notices as well, because it's a subdivision within.
I know we already got
500
the
feet.
county review back. And obviously those will be incorporated, I'm assuming you guys got a copy of the county's.
We got that before last work session.
Which is interesting, because we really technically haven't really acted in the official capacity yet on it, so they're just the informal on the work session 2 weeks ago, so things seem to be kind of happening quick, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, other big picture things is just as far as the subdivision goes, we just want to make sure that by creating this lot, by taking this parcel of land from the existing housing development, that they're not making that existing lot non-conforming. As far as any open space requirements, setbacks that might have been required under that zone.
Yeah, and we met with the building inspector, he confirmed that there is a currently illegally non-conforming lot area per dwelling, which is why we're asking to be referred to the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah, I mean, bigger, just as far as providing open space on the new lot, to the rear of the proposal. I mean, it's a wetland area. So, I mean, maybe there's some discussion about what the final finish will be, if that's gonna, just be left natural. I don't think it's a typical usable open space where the residents can use it for much of anything. So I don't know if there's been any consideration to what the finished.
Yeah, we've been toying with a few ideas for some open space for use. We haven't nailed down anything specifically, that's all.
Okay.
I'm happy to discuss that with you further, Adam.
I think that's going to evolve as we kind of drill deeper into the application and the deal.
Yeah. Just other things, just getting the fire department to take a look as far as truck turning movements, turnarounds, fire access to the building. That's pretty typical. And then the rest is just kind of more technical engineering. Stormwater, which the applicant noted was preliminary until they really know what practices they're designing. Can't be nailed down at this point, but can certainly be advanced as the application moves forward.
Yeah, I guess the question is, do we want to, you brought your team here tonight, so I don't know if we want to get a quick architectural, kind of description, and then, the engineer, if you guys want to speak to this a little bit. I know, look, it's going to be procedurally, have to do a few things tonight to get this thing rolling.
So it's the board's
It's
discretion.
up to you guys, yeah. We're here for
We
you.
have some pretty pictures of the buildings if you'd like to still
How's the board feel
see that.
about, uh,
See that.
Review this, it's a little premature.
Might as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So our first official time on the calendar, let's go through it.
Was there a discussion or has been determination as to what these properties are gonna be it rental?
We're still
You're still
working
going
through
over
that,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
Definitely subdivision.
Correct.
So I'm John Fry, I'm the architect for the project. As previously shared, these units are fairly unique. The unit sizes, the market intent. They're fairly large units. They support single level living patterns, which is a trend toward the senior market, particularly as it relates to a downsizing market, who may be selling a 4,000 to 5,000 square foot house and desires a unit between 2,800 and 3,500 square feet, a unit that provides a master bedroom suite on the first floor. So that results in fairly large unit footprints compared to a prototypical townhome footprint. These units, the end units are larger than the interior units. They all have fairly large basements, but the basements are not intended to be finished. The architectural style really is a low-scale cottage style, is the way we've characterized it. And there are various offsets that you can see depicted in the site plan that really not only define the unit composition, but lend to breaking up the scale of a linear footprint.
And we do have these elevations, right?
We do. And I think we have several generations from the initial work session through the most recent submittals.
Right, I mean, we didn't really drill down into finishes or that sort of thing. We're just, you guys are still
okay.
conceptual.
So the lower right-hand sketch, we've actually modeled that. We actually have a computer model of that currently as an update. And I think comparatively, when you see it, I think we have it here tonight. It's a fairly consistent massing and architectural signature profile comparison. The units again are the end units are the garage, are the double garage units. They have elements on the end and decks to the rear. You can begin to see the walkout basement scenario on the upper elevation. Again, that is almost by, I don't think this shows up on this screen. It disappears.
So we have a west elevation, which is sort of the, if you're looking back from the Birchbrook property.
The rear elevation as the property really rolls down into that stream bed.
This elevation is, you know, that is, I'm assuming that's the north.
That would be the north elevation.
And we don't have a front elevation yet, or
We do.
Okay.
That may
East
be in
and
the,
east, I guess.
or it's either
First and second.
I'm not sure.
This is the second page of
Okay, so it may not be, it may not be on,
I've seen that before.
Payment was received.
Just wanted to make sure.
is that confirming the escrow payment?
Yeah, right.
East. That's curious to see how that would look. So again, the feel is sort of as this site drops
Very
down to
low
the
and
south,
horizontal,
you're-
a cottage style, there's vertical. You can actually see on the comparative images on the upper left, the concepts behind materials, window patterns, roof details, significant roof overhangs, all of the elements that lend to a cottage style architectural signature.
Where would you be putting the solar panels?
if you look at the south elevation here, right? And a part of the massing concept, you can see the offset of the gable form, right? The gable form, the roof form toward the front of the unit compared to the roof length at the rear of the unit is where we would envision hosting significant footprints of solar panels. So those are not, they're not really portrayed on the street side, they're really concealed on the rear side, on that valley side. And if you look proportionally from the front to the back, the rear elevation really has about 3 times the roof area. So it's a significant roof footprint potentially. You could see in this, and I'm not sure this is the most recent Revit generated architectural 3D. In the generation that's shown there in that elevation, you can see it introduced in the conceptual sketch above. It's not introduced in the elevation here, but it's reintroduced here that in terms of these shed dormers that are on the front that were conceptualized in the sketch. And we felt like as we realized this in a more accurate form, it was a valid notion in terms of breaking up that horizontal line.
So just a quick question. So we're driving south on Walden Road. Would we see it in that perspective, that center perspective there? Or
Yes.
would it be sunken down a little bit more?
Well, it's going to be, I mean, the buildings step down, as you can see here. They cascade down the hill. This view is essentially at the entrance to the drive, to the parcel. If you're on the Walden side, between the topography change and the existing plant material, trees, tree line, etc., this is going to be beyond, down, and below. The one notion that evolved out is from the sketch you can see the side decks were going to wrap around initially, and that went away.
Right. Okay. I mean, I think that's an interesting element. I mean, not to say that you're lost it completely, but, I think as we kind of develop these things over the next few months.
I guess if you guys don't have any other questions for us, or
Question. So any questions of the board? We're good. Comments, questions from the public?
Hi. Hi, I'm 55 Walden. I am one of the neighbors, potential neighbors to this project. I think it's a really important step for Austin to do this kind of project. There are many things that we have talked about in some of the comprehensive plan discussions we've had during the PRWC and later on about the missing middle of housing structures, form-based zoning, and this particular site has some advantages because it's going all the way through from North Highland down to Walden and is actually a multi-house site because it is one unit, is one entity. So we have the opportunity here to have, with this subdivision, cluster housing like this, otherwise in the T125 zone and T100 zone, which is single-family houses with a lot of property around them. Personally, I could see that this is something that many of the residents on Walden Road and Macy, even though it's Briarcliff and around here, could say this is something they can segue into. I actually had a conversation with my neighbor on Sunday who said, who's a retired couple, and they said, we have been living here in Ossining forever. My yard is getting more and more difficult to handle, but I don't want to move. So, and where would they move to if they wanted to stay in Ossining, but a place like that? So I'm really in favor of this project, and as a neighbor and as someone who's in the business and former board member here on the planning board, I really, really highly, highly recommend that you go through with this. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good afternoon. Good evening, sorry.
And just your name for the record.
James Strong, 74A Walden Road. I do have a couple questions. I would like to say that I'm not against it, but I do have questions as I'm going to be looking at this. The issue of the wetlands, they did, let's see. It says, does the site or proposed action contain any species? So there are endangered or threatened species in this piece of property. So how are we gonna take care of that? That's one of my questions.
Okay. Yeah, just pose the questions here, and then if they're not answered tonight, there'll be further review. I mean, the village has Kellen Sessions on retainer to review these things for the board. You know, comments are certainly legitimate. I think the applicants sort of expressed an openness to continue to work.
Now that area of the wetlands is basically everything that's low there. They previously discussed about possibly doing something for the public. That piece of property that's wet is useless. It is wet 365 days a year. So to say maybe you're going to do something with that, I think that is not a good idea. And I'll go further that if they do attempt to do something with the wetland portions, if they culvert it or try and fill it in, you're affecting, I would say, 7 homes on the west side of the road, because a lot of them have walkout basements, and it does flood. So
you're really talking about the low point behind what's proposed here, not the immediate stream that you see from
that place,
the road.
It is Mosquito City, to put it nicely. I mean, if they want to pitch it that to have people walk out the back deck, the only thing they're going to do is get chased back into the house by the mosquitoes, because it is brutal there, especially during the summer months. The wetlands are just one of my issues. Has a traffic study been performed on that area of Walden Road? Because I can tell you, when the cars come down Holbrook, or even from, if they make a right off Maurice, it's full throttle up Holbrook to try and beat all the traffic on Route 9.
Right, if that wasn't raised in our review, I'm again assuming we got a short form EAF. Did we get, I mean, some of that could be sort of handled in the EAF process, whether it's a short form or long form. So we have a short.
I believe so.
I think it was short.
I think it was short, so maybe as a further analysis in the long form, certainly traffic impacts can be expanded on and looked at as an environmental impact.
You guys had already touched on, as the fire chief said, signed off on it. One of the drawings shows the top right shows a car. I don't know if it's in motion or out of motion, but it appears that if that car is parked there, it would pose significant risk to the tenants of every single unit there. And then while we're also talking about parking, the architectural drawing shows that the first and the fifth unit have parking for 4 cars, so 2 cars within the structure, 2 cars outside of the structure. So my concern is units 2, 3, and 4 only have parking for one and one, so 2 cars, 1 inside, 1 outside. So if they're pitching this for an elderly couple to live, that's fine. However, with a 3-bedroom unit, what I see is a young family with 2 kids, or a young family with 3 kids. So then the concern is it's gonna be back to the speeding on Walden Road with where these cars are gonna park. And I can tell you, where this driveway is supposed to come out is an absolute mess. We're gonna go right back to Walden with, I mean, big taxis, cars, anybody flying down. Now you add parking on Walden Road, and it's just gonna be terrible.
I don't think they're proposing parking on Walden.
Yeah, but
You're saying
so-
if it backs up?
So so if the second, third, and fourth unit now have kids, so you have 2 kids, let's say, you only have, let's say, 1 adult, 2 adults each have a car, you throw 2 kids in there that are 17 or 18, now you have 4 cars, they don't have enough parking for it, so there's not enough parking within the piece of property, so now they're forced to park on Walden Road.
Okay, so again, thank you for raising those questions. I think we're gonna study this further, just for your own, comfort. We do refer to the fire department, OVAC. It's sort of a coordinated review of all the different departments in the village. And, I know the county's already kind of responded, and I'm certain Brian was gonna get back to us. So we're at the very beginning stages of the process.
Right.
So, but I wanna thank you for coming out.
Thank you. And like I said, I am not against this project, I just have some concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, just your name for the record, please.
Shane Farrell, 78 Walden Road. I guess I have some concerns as well. It's the driveway. The driveway is there's no sight distance, it's a life safety issue.
So just not to kind of thwart you, but just if something's already been raised, a concern, you don't necessarily need to, I think, repeat it, like, we're all kind of, we hear what you're saying, this is being recorded.
I don't have to repeat it for myself.
Yeah, no, if traffic is an issue, we got it. If, lighting is an issue, we got it. Just so whatever you have to say, as long as.
So then you got that the wetlands is an issue.
Got it.
All right,
Got it.
most of the concerns of mine are raised.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Good evening, Bob Fritchie. My question is basically towards what the architect made as a statement for your solar panels. If I'm looking at that upper right rendering, I'm going to assume that is the southern side of the building?
It's the eastern side.
It's looking in from the east. If you were standing on Walden, I'm assuming you're looking west. So we call this the east elevation, I believe.
Okay, and you said the back would be covered, is proposed for a western exposure for the solar panels.
If solar panels were seriously considered, that would be the most logical place.
Okay. I mistook the positioning of the building. That's all I have.
Okay. Thanks. Anyone else from the public to speak to this application? Okay. I think that said, we have to declare ourselves.
Well, need a notice of intent, so which we'll get out, we can get that out right away. So if the board is.
And just for the members of the public that are here, this is going to go to the zoning board of appeals. So I don't know if they'll get a separate notice for that, or.
Well, they will be one of the interested agencies, but, people will have to get a separate notice, if that's what you're asking for.
Yeah.
There will be a separate notice for the variance application that's gonna go before the zoning board of appeals, that's correct.
So, yeah, I think some of the confusion here was that some of the neighbors had gotten notification. I don't know if it was sent certified, how it was done. And I think the village has its own inner workings that we have to kind of figure out a little bit, because for a long time, the applicant did the mailing, and, my understanding is the village got involved in the last several months, so we're gonna have to figure that out and get that right.
And I think there was some concern expressed by at least one person in terms of what the notice actually said, and so that the people who would get it would understand that it involved Walden Road and not just simply coming off of Highland.
Right.
So
And something as simple as, again, if there was an apartment complex next to this project, it might not necessarily get sent to each resident of that building, but maybe to the management company, and they would kind of provide it to the residents if need be. And again, zoning board, if you're there, there'll be notification from the zoning board specifically.
Yes.
That never changed, right?
No, that will go out and that will get taken care of. but we'll just get the notice of intent for this board. We'll include on that, obviously, Briarcliff Manor, and we'll include, as we now do, OVAC and OFD, so that they will all be notified and will be able to comment.
Okay. Anything else at this point? Or?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. So I guess we'll see you guys in September.
So we're gonna declare intent to be lead agency?
You'll have to do that at the next meeting. We have to do the notice of intent now, and then we would declare lead at the next one. So we'll get that notice out right away.
Are we gonna refer to the zoning board now, or no?
It would have to be, because since they're looking for site plan approval and they need a variance, they have to go to zoning to get that variance first. So you can, this board should refer it to zoning, and then they can appear on the zoning board calendar, which would be their October meeting, which would be, I think we moved it today, October 7th or so, because of the way the holidays. Oh, the 15th, I'm sorry, the following week, right, 15th.
I mean, there's no question that this is the right board to review the project. It should do anywhere else.
Right.
So once we get this mechanical stuff done, we're back here in September. We'll continue to review, and obviously you guys got some feedback from the community, and you got Brian's memo to work on, and we'll keep working away.
Do you guys formally resolve to refer, or do you guys just kind of verbally refer on?
You can do it formally if you want to take a vote to refer it, or, I mean, ordinarily, we just refer it over to the zoning board, and what I would do is then just follow the application process to the planning department.
That works.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, next applicant is 8-19, 65 Main.
Yeah. No, we have one out, so.
Okay, so we'll take a 5-minute break.
We're taking 5 minutes.
Sure. We're waiting to hear from -19 OBL.
JB, it's you.
Okay. Well, this project is 65 Main Street, or otherwise known as the Little Red House on Main Street. What we are proposing, and Peter Chernoff, one of the properties here as well, if he can speak to that as well. We're proposing to maintain the existing building and then put an addition to it. And we're going to have a restaurant, kitchen at the lower level, a restaurant in the main level. And then we had 4 units. I think we're going to end up having 5 units once we start looking at the layout of the apartments and the views to the river. With this unit, the layout of the unit, we have not changed the architectural that we had shown you previously during the work section. So again, we're trying to.
So you're able to add that 5th unit within the vocabulary, what's
the same. We maintain the same architectural vocabulary. We're trying to, add to the language used on Main Street with the upper building, if you want to call it like that. We're going to maintain the existing brick house, and the rear of the building with the river view is more modern looking materials, and we have some roof patios on the top units. This is some of the existing picture of the existing property as it stands right now. And I know Peter wanted to talk about the intentions of doing this on Main Street.
Well, I mean, we're looking to accomplish 2 things. One is certainly, keeping what is not a landmark house, but I think an important historic house. And we're really filling in what is very much a dead zone between the village center and the waterfront. And, our intention is to create a lively space with apartments above where, people aren't walking through blocks of nothingness between the train and the village center.
And this is a historical picture, a photo that we had of the site. And as you can tell, there was some addition to the site. This is the main house as it's set today. And you can tell that originally there were additional house or unit to it.
So what is the date of the actual construction of the original building?
1820s.
1820s? Wow.
It was built by a family named Fisher. That was one of the early settling families.
So there was another existing structure to the right of the red building previously?
To the,
Yeah.
You're looking at it to the.
oh, that sort of wood frame
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
That picture's from from 1930.
Okay.
I'm gonna assume it burnt down like so many things, but I'm not sure where it went.
It's stable.
And we had, in the package we had given you, we have shown different pictures of, reproduction of different maps and stuff that show this house. Even though it's not a landmark building, we are trying to keep all the elements of the architecture.
And if you saw from that photo, there was a structure on the left side of the building, and that's where we're rebuilding a sort of bay structure there. I think that's going to add some stability to that wall long-term, which would be nice. We're going to have, obviously, the new addition to the right of the building, and then that structure there. So even given how old this building is, we're going to have a sort of solid additions on both sides.
Shoring up whatever
Yeah.
needs to be shored up inside the original.
The wall's not really buckling, but I have a fair amount of experience with buildings like this in New York, which is why, really honestly, I don't want to touch the roof more than I have to, because usually you get up there and the parapets and so forth are held together by gravity.
And with this, as we move forward, when we're trying to get the approval for this project, this lot is kind of like the one in Crown Avenue. Even though it's part of the waterfront district, the size of the lot is pre-existing. It will require some variances for us to get with the lot size and previous coverage.
So this is another new application, I guess, that again, we're declaring ourselves lead agency and.
And there's certainly no way to combine this lot with any other lot. You go off a cliff on the three sides from this there.
And it'll have to go to the zoning board for play.
Yes. And I think this, it goes to the same comments. It went to you guys for.
Yeah, there's several variances. Like usual parking is an issue. And if, as I stated tonight, if they're adding another unit, the unit, they need a variance for unit density already, so that'll be a heavier variance, and then they'll need more parking than what they have. So
Part of the discussion, Brian, that we had, just informal, we had, I know you made comments about the ADA, we talked about doing something in the village where we're allowed to use the parking on the street for ADA compliance.
To relieve you from providing a off-street handicap spot, that we're saying?
Right, because due to the location of the driveway, and everything, it's not conducive to.
Yeah.
It's very steep.
Yeah, if you had the ADA space in there and you had to sort of try to get up around the sidewalk, it
I'm
would be.
okay with considering it if there's precedent.
That already exists on, right on Broadway, there's ADA compliant, right on.
Well, that's an application you'd make to ultimately the village manager, because she can designate where particular spaces are.
Well, I think, again, it's one of the things we're going to further study and.
yeah, if that's the route taken, they would just have to show that, yes, you have an ADA, but can you still get to the building safely? So that's the trouble.
This will also require an EAC referral.
Any other, Brian, anything else from your memo, or kind of just broad brush?
It's broad, this more, it's a lot happening in a small parcel, so we'll have to really get the variances nailed down.
Okay. And JV, you have the memo and?
Yep.
Good. Okay. All right, questions, comments from the board? Anybody here from the public to speak to this application?
I'm sorry.
If you're here to speak to the application, just please come up to the podium and announce your name and address.
Didn't mean to do all this talking, but Dana White, 24 Ellis Place, also the village historian. I would just like to say I love projects like this that retain the historic buildings and improve them and then add a modern aspect with the addition. You know, this building has been vacant for a long time, and a lot of people are just like, tear it down. Now, Peter doesn't agree with that, which is really great. So I commend him on these types of projects and his sensitivity to our historic architecture.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Meryl Sushamari. I'm from Brenda Street, and I walk down the train station all the time. And I always see this building that is abandoned there, the project. And I think this building is such a nice building, has a beautiful view. I think this project is going to be doing good. Parking's issue, it has a big place to parking. I'm not sure in the back of the building. It also has on the sides. And it's next to the train station parking lot. So it's nice for people, if they're going to make a restaurant, to come through the train station and just walk to the field. It's not far from the train station. I wish him luck, and that's a good thing for us. I mean, thank you.
I think what Peter's really hanging his hat on here too is that, you know, this whole transit-oriented development theme, you know, all these projects that you seem to be interested in or involved in are within walking distance of the train.
Yeah, it's just not far.
Which is, again, less of a, places less of an importance on cars and traffic and all those.
Ideally, yeah.
Good. Okay. JB, anything else, or?
So we can declare lead agency.
Okay. No one else in the public, so we're good on that. So
We'll have to
lead
get
agency
we'll have to get a
and
notice of intent.
Notice of EAC.
They'll have to go to ZBA. And
Right.
now for the EAC, JB, do you have an idea when you'll have a SWIP ready? Because I know that's something they look at, so. I don't want to necessarily send it to EAC before you have that, because they're going to ask for it.
Right, now completed applications go a long
Yeah.
way. So let's make sure we have everything that we need.
Well, that's okay, because you can go to the ZBA in the meantime anyway. It's
Right,
just,
so-
you
Yeah,
know,
we were in the process, we submitted an application, which is working
Fine.
out the
Perfect.
variances and how many.
All right, so for
That's good.
purposes of, sorry, Jeff.
I was just gonna say, do we have to make a referral just so we make sure it gets on ZBA's agenda?
I
or-
think that JB said they've already got an application.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
ready,
codify
so-
now, we can say
Yeah.
declaring stuff for lead agency
Yeah.
and also referring
Right.
to zoning board, referring to EAC and whatever other.
Yeah, we'll get the notice of intent out so that at your next
For the-
meeting, you can declare leave.
But,
Just
so we're not
also for,
declaring
I'm
leave this time.
Yeah.
sorry, for the EAC, I mean, so the board can recommend us, and as soon as we are ready, we can just submit.
Exactly right. In other words, it will be, they're indicating to go to the EAC. When you're ready, we'll just get it onto their agenda.
Okay.
That's
And I
fine.
guess that's early in the month.
Yeah, I mean, they're generally the first Tuesday of the month.
Okay.
So it's, and just, you know, because I know that they ask about SWIPs and they ask about, you know, what kind of planting and all things like that, so therefore,
I think one of the board members.
yes, as you know, so,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay, so we'll see you guys back here next month, and at that
Okay.
point, we'll declare lead agency and,
Right.
you know, all the other referrals and all that good stuff. Great, thanks. And I know you guys are back there for two more, so you don't have to go too far.
What's next?
Squire House.
Squire House, sorry about that, 9-9.
Covered on the work session.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think the only issue that I mentioned to Stuart today is like we probably want to think about this whole rec fee issue, because it's one thing when there's a new development, right? Somebody comes in, close to 100 units, there's a rec fee. Repurposing these buildings where maybe it was a two-family and it goes to a four-family. I want some clarification on that.
I will get that for you.
So we talked a little bit about that. I think it's a 270-52
Two.
category. So just you know, you want to be consistent about how we apply this to
Correct.
all the applicants, because it seems like more and more of the applicants are repurposing a building, whether it's a two-family going to four, or maybe it was a commercial building, and it's being converted to residential. So these are just, this is some more housekeeping stuff on our end that we want to kind of make sure we're consistent with.
Okay.
That's per unit fee, right?
Per unit fee.
Just on the Squire House, are you guys expanding the parking lot at all?
No, I just wanted to, I saw your comments, I
Yeah.
wanted to clarify that. First, we presented to the board already the project, you guys are familiar with what we're trying to do, is in, we're not doing any changes to the exterior of the building, because it's a landmark building. I think we're going to refer informally to the historical board, but we're not.
We sent, yeah, just as a, to let them know what was going on. There's no
Right, it's
COA
notice,
required here
there's
because there's no
there's no
exterior
requirement.
work. That's correct.
And the changes that we're making is we are converting the, from a two-family to a four-unit building. We're keeping the upper floors unchanged, and all the changes occur in the lower level, and
Right, for some historical perspective, this house was a T-zone property, T-zone for many, many years.
right.
I understand more recently it was a single family, or there was one family that owned it, and I guess.
No, it was a two-family, there was an existing kitchen,
Right.
he had built it out, intending for his mother to move in down below, that, I don't know if that ever happened.
And then subsequently, I guess about 10 years ago, when we did the last comp plan review, zoning map changes.
They became a
PO.
PO, a PO zone
Professional
district,
office,
and which allow
Residential's
residential.
permitted within the PO
Yeah.
provided.
So, we are compliant, and Brian, to go to your question, when we first built the house, here for, to go the house, we did had a project, and we secured a building permit for the driveway. So the driveway was done, there's a permit, it's already been closed. So all we are proposing now is some minor interior changes, no exterior work, and to confirm one of the comments you have, it is 6 bedrooms on the unit. But if the number of bedrooms does not affect the number of parking spaces, so.
If you look at the posts that exist, you'll see that there was always a driveway in the front and always parking in the back.
You haven't added any curb
They're-
cuts or any of those curb cuts?
No, they're frustratingly really hard to guide a car in between when it's snowy, but they're there, and that was always what was
We,
there.
right,
And
we
then just
wouldn't,
the whatever improvements were done down below with that parking area, that's it's
not
just
gravel.
impervious, it's gravel.
It's gravel.
So you haven't created runoff or some
Right.
else.
so the lower level, again, we have one unit, and it has direct access to the exterior. Now, there was a question about, once we remove the stairs, how do you get access to it? There's direct access to the driveway. Then we have 2 units.
Just
and there's
to speak to the lower level is semi-finished, nothing historic. There is, linoleum floor and sort of, there's a stair which I would guess went in the 1950s or 60s. We have some photos if anybody's interested in seeing that.
So is HPC really going to kind of opine on the exterior, or are they going to talk
They're
about
not
the interior
gonna,
as well?
no, they don't, their role is not interior. As long, in fact, I think one of the questions asked of JB was going to be any window work, which he said, we all said no. So there would not be any exterior work, so there's no requirement for.
No, I understand that there's not a requirement, but we're going to present it to them just to,
Yeah,
I would think of it
As a
like,
courtesy,
just like any
as a-
member of the public could make comments to us, they can make comments to us, we're the agency that's gonna make the
we thought
determination.
because it is on the National Register, that it would be at least a good idea to let them know.
Absolutely.
So they do have it on for their next agenda as a matter for just discussion purposes.
And if they have any comments
They will
after
get
the
it back to you.
presentation, they'll come to us.
Exactly right.
We'll
So-
get a memo in some fashion.
Well, so will the board be able to take a vote tonight, condition that we don't have any, I mean, because we don't need to go to, technically, we don't need to have a certificate of property, so can we get a,
Oh, I see what you're asking. Could you just get your condition?
I mean, I can really walk you through photos of like, explaining really that like there's nothing historic that's gonna be touched. I wouldn't do that in the first place. I mean,
No,
there's-
the only thing I would say is, it does need to go to EAC, because we're west of 9.
But we don't
Even on a complete.
No, we don't, if I,
The way it's worded. Now, they could come back, well, it's the same thing in a sense with the Sing Sing prison, you see. It's effectively all interior.
but it's true.
I'll double check, yes, I'm sorry, JB, I do not mean to interrupt you.
No,
It's
no,
your
sorry,
night.
yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
But with going to that, I mean, we now, if I was gonna do renovations and I go for, take a building permit, if we're not doing any site plan approval, I wouldn't have to go to the EAC.
You know what, why don't I do this, because I will review it before. If you do not have to go to the EAC, I will advise this board. If from the engineering perspective, this is a matter that can be voted on this evening for conditional use, it depends in terms of, and I would defer to Brian whether anything
So, like,
needs
if
to be
Brian can
done.
give us again the broad brush kind of, points that you feel are
Right,
appropriate.
I mean, I think the driving comments, which I don't know are applicable if that parking lot is as, because the survey was taken before the parking lot was expanded. But I don't know, but we're told tonight that it was permitted and everything was fine as far as expanding that permit. And so I'm assuming that a variance might not be required. I don't
If
know.
a permit was pulled for the driveway and there's some of those site excavation and fill,
Right,
whatever you
yes,
did,
yes.
I'm assuming, being somewhat familiar with the process, that, you have to supply a as-built survey too. I mean, do you have to go out and resurvey and
Yeah, we can provide an as-built survey, and when we went through the process, the biggest issue when we did the permitting was the amount of impervious area that's allowed there. So that kind of went down to where we use impervious material like rubble in order not to infringe or go over the allowed percentage of impervious area. So to me, I mean, again, to me, this is just a conditional use for interior work.
Well,
And I'm not sure that,
the only question I had, Brian, you had mentioned about the parking setback as.
Right.
And I guess that's the only.
but that's right.
If that's dealt with, because there was a reference that it might require a variance, if that's dealt with, then we're okay.
I'm hearing if there's sort of one or two conditions that we could do some sort of approval condition
Yeah.
upon those being met, I think that's okay, but I think if it's several conditions, and again, there's this sort of, we want to get some clarity on that rec fee issue.
Yeah.
And there's this referral to EAC, so trying to get a sense of, if it's narrow enough, I'm thinking we could probably move on something tonight, but if our consultants are saying, we need to maybe just do another month to get it right, or take a look at it, and that's kind of where I think we are here.
I mean, in this case, I think, like, again, the parking lot was done under a permit. I think, again, the proximity to the lot line had to deal with pavement. We don't have pavement, we have gravel. So, I mean, that's, again, I mean, we have a permit. If we can get a conditional use pending that we don't need CEA or any comment from.
Right, I'd like to at least get an updated survey and make
Yeah,
sure
yes.
that what their proposed parking, the geometry works, that they could really get the cars. I just, based off the survey I had, I wouldn't know.
Because like you said, with a gravel lot, I mean, what, maybe
If that
it was
could-
4 spaces, we don't want it to turn into 6 or 7 or
Right.
some crazy thing.
Well,
So-
we have 2 extra parking spaces.
You have 10 spaces, right?
Yeah.
So that said, let me just open up to the board, how does the board feel about moving on this tonight, or do we feel we need a little more time to kind of?
I don't know if, maybe if Stuart, do you have an answer on, or were you looking at the, whether,
Oh, I'm looking at two things. One on the driveways, that's the one where driveways, blacktops, and loading docks must be at least 2 feet away from the property line. So, JB, I just want to be clear, are you saying that the driveway is at least 2 feet away from the property line? 'Cause I guess-
The new driveway in the back, it is. The existing driveway in the front was already existing.
Okay, so in other words, the front is pre-existing, the rear is more than 2 feet. But I think that's the survey that Brian wants, so we can just confirm
We can
that.
provide
So
that.
that
When
would
you
be
say
fine.
2 feet, does that address all adjoining properties or just the village, the frontage?
No,
of
it's
the
just
village?
from the property line and it's just from the property line. So it's got to be,
Frontage on the village street.
yeah, in terms of that. So that's what it's got there, unless otherwise noted. So that's that. On the issue of the rec fees, which is the question that we talked about, that's really in part a determination by this board as to whether or not, it's deemed necessary. And so that's something that would have to be looked at. I'm hesitant to leave that open as a condition because we just don't have the answer to it just yet. So that's, I think the other things that Brian has talked about would probably resolve, but if we're gonna keep the one, because the rec, I think I have to get back to you folks. I'd rather.
I know it's sort of late.
get it all at once.
late-
No, but, which is
Take
why I
that
think it
forward.
has to just be dealt with all together.
So fellow board members, I guess, where are we?
I think we should check off all these boxes. and
I
then-
agree.
I kind of feel there's enough
Yeah.
going on, and we want to get this nailed down, and then I think next month.
I think our intention was that we wanted HPC just to give us comments.
That's fine.
And we haven't had that, and I don't think there's really, because it's all interior, I can't foresee something.
No,
but
and
I don't wanna
I have
take
not
that out
heard
of
anything
hands.
yet anyway, but it is on for the 9th, so it's on before your next meeting.
Okay.
And again, if we do have a work session in 2 weeks, a lot of this, there could be, an update, and, we might have an answer on fees, we might have an answer from HPC, so.
Since we pretty much have all the issues figured out, if we can cover it all at a work session and just be satisfied that these boxes have been checked, then come next meeting,
I can have a resolution ready, in fact, at the meeting in September, so you'll be fine at that point.
Do you want me to bore you with my photos of the interior and what will actually be touched, or not?
How many more things do we have on the agenda tonight?
No.
Okay, thank
What time is
you.
it?
Not-
9.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think
I
it's,
think we're okay.
but
So
the
just,
board members.
you're just gonna refer to the AC out of abundance of caution?
I'm gonna see if it even requires the
Right.
LTAC. For
Yeah. But let's get that
HPC,
dealt with, so
that'll be
that's all
done. HPC, we know when it's on, we'll have a work session here, so that we can perhaps resolve all those things, so by the time we come back in September for a regular meeting, there may even be a resolution ready to go forward with this board.
Good. So that said, we'll see you guys, I guess, next month.
Okay.
And
Just
down.
You have a
for
question, so go
clarification,
ahead.
yes. You saw me. If we have a comment from the historical review board,
Right.
but we're not technically bound by those comments.
It's just gonna come to this board for them to hear. That's really
Just as if
all
a
it
member of
is.
the public came to the microphone and said, I have an
Got
opinion
it.
about
Got
X,
it.
we'll consider it the same.
I can make a comment now if you want.
I know you can. Okay?
Okay.
Great. Thanks, guys. So are you back now with 1416 Bradford?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
For the members of the public, should I do sort of the once-over of what this project is about?
Yeah, I think this is our first public.
Yes,
it
we
is.
have public.
We
was
talked
just-
about
This was
work
a,
session
just a
and
work
then
session, we did not.
All right, so why don't you make your official
Okay.
presentation brief and.
So what we're looking to do at 1416 Brandreth, which I think is a really exciting project, is first of all, putting a staircase down to the Singsonville Greenway from Brandreth. Brandreth is, of course, effectively the continuation of Spring Street. So we're really connecting the center of the village of Austining directly into the Singsonville Greenway, which is, one of our great assets, and it's right now sort of disconnected. You've got an entrance which is up over by the community center, hard to find on a good day, and not an easy connector. We're looking to make it such that you could grab a coffee at First Village Coffee and go over, either sitting on what will be a public plaza, looking at the Double Arch Bridge, or indeed descending down into the Sing Sing Kill. Also, people coming up from the train could walk up the Sing Sing Kill and connect nicely into the village. 1416 Brandreth has a really interesting basement. It happens to have an 11-foot ceiling, and off the side of it, you walk out a door and you're on a ledge looking into the ravine. What we're looking to do is to
I don't know if you want to
create.
maybe scroll down and show.
Sure.
Which I think is
There's the elevations go along
Create a glass addition to that effectively, which connects to that stair. And, you know, providing a very dynamic restaurant space. The interior of the existing building has a stone foundation wall, which would be refinished, and then you're continuing out into this very modern structure. And then the third aspect of this project, which is, you know, beyond the scope of this exact filing and a little bit more ambition perhaps, would be to turn the Sing Sing Kill Greenway into an art walk. As you see, the public plaza would be the first opportunity for a sculpture, you know, potentially theater, art, music, all intertwined down there. There are opportunities to put small stages on plateaus, sculpture, and, you know, once again, potentially music. We do happen to have a certain amount of frontage on the Sing Sing Kill, so we control some of that. And I think the rest of, there's a good amount which is owned by the village, and the remaining pieces, I think, which are under other private ownership, are not going to be against that kind of a use, particularly because it's really down below their properties, and second of all, it's going to be a nice use, which is good for the village and good for everyone ultimately. The ones identified there are the ones that we presently own, and then there are additional village-owned pieces.
So these are acquired properties here, Peter?
Yes, and that's the brand.
And just for some reference, I guess this is Lincoln School there, right? That's the
Yes.
condos or?
Yes.
Yep. And this is also village owned.
That's village-owned, and there's another piece next to the church, which is village-owned.
So you'd mentioned you would probably want a license to have access to Kilbrook, or what was?
No, one of the, what we need is a license to get through the municipal parking lot to what would be our parking. Adjacent to where our parking would be is presently a village parking lot. We'd be creating some additional spaces for the village, and then creating our parking lot for the restaurant.
So you have, so essentially you have the right to get down to the greenway or the walkway now because your property basically runs to the center.
Yeah, the walkway actually, it's the reverse. The walkway is actually on my property. So you have an easement to have the walkway on my property. We're just looking to connect to it, basically. I don't think we need any specific permissions to connect into it because we're on our own land. The license that I think we really do need is to enable us to actually create that parking in the rear.
This here is the property line.
Gotcha.
So we are actually creating 8 parking spaces.
Because essentially now this is all just hill, green space, kind of sloping up to the aqueduct.
Yes.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, where the parking is right now is fairly level, but then there's a steep incline up to the aqueduct trail.
Is that red kind of framed lumber platform still there? Is that?
Yeah.
You guys, is this part of you, or is that?
No, it's just beyond me. I'm hoping someone's going to burn it down or something, but it's still there. It's.
I don't know if that's the answer we want.
No, I just, as someone who sees all the food containers that get thrown down on the Sing Sing Kill, I just wonder why it's there.
Well, maybe there's an opportunity to improve that in addition to what you guys are proposing. I think,
Sure. Well, I mean, indeed, what we're proposing is a public plaza, which I think is even better and more accessible. The thing about that wooden deck also, it's kind of out of prying eyes. It's a nice place for youth to hang out where the Austin PD can't really see them.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's a problem. I don't think, I'm kidding, no one's gonna burn it down, it's gonna stay there, but it's, you know, I mean, go stand over there, and at some point, you'll see, 15 kids walking out who just smoked up or did whatever they did, and, it's a nice spot
I
for
think we
that.
have a memo on this one too.
Oh,
yes.
I'm sorry, do you guys have anything else, or are we kind of?
No, and then there's, I mean, going again to the memo, I mean, we had to start the process of engineering, trying to get the stuff established.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one. I mean, it's exciting, but I have to play the no fun engineer. And, there is the issue of the aqueduct. Again, this has similar properties. There is a buffer established.
We are requesting a variance for that.
You're familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
And in fact,
That's the parking area is within the 25.
within 25, in fact, some of the grading is on the aqueduct property, which has shown on, so, things that
So,
plan might be
yeah,
changing.
I'm certainly sure we're gonna notify the Aqueduct, old Croton Aqueduct
Oh,
Authority,
yeah.
or whatever
Correct.
that's called,
Yep.
as an affected
Well,
agency.
yeah, and if they're improving on their property, that's a whole nother, there's no more than just the notification.
Yeah, that's what we have.
Well, we never-
with
I don't think we're
No,
going
we
on to
never
their property.
improve, we will provide the rest, we're not improving.
If you show the grading that was submitted, there's
It
the
was,
parking lot.
it was existing already, it should have been.
No, to create the parking lot on that slope, you're gonna have to tie the grades back in, and that slope that you're creating is on the aqueduct property. As
Okay,
shown
we
an
will
aqueduct
look into
buffer
that.
or on the property?
on the property, proper. on the-
More than
Oh,
just
really?
buffer, actual.
Correct.
We will,
There's not much of a slope there. I mean, if you
Yeah.
walk
Show
it.
the-
Yeah.
So we're not.
Yeah,
And forgive me
Yeah.
for knowing this, do we have an actual survey, do you have an up-to-date survey that you?
We will have we have to get a topographical survey.
Yeah, because there's some adjoining property lines to the rear that we want to see mapped out.
You're saying here,
So the,
outside the property,
if those,
we can, right.
like all those
We can
contours,
easily move if we have to, we will move the parking area, so we won't do.
Being that this is the initial application,
Yeah.
as you guys know,
Yeah, but
there's a
that-
process here, so.
Sure.
We're in the very beginning stages of that.
yeah, so again, as mentioned, there's a lot of improvements on the village property. Things will come up, how do you
think
ensure that those parking spaces are used for this use? I mean, if it's a municipal lot, are they just filled up with commuters, and then you have your restaurant?
So if this is a municipal lot, I'm assuming you can get you buy a permit from the village. This is a permitted lot. It is
Yeah, that's tag parking right now, I
tag
believe.
parking, yeah. Okay.
But we discussed this, I think, maybe when you were
Yeah.
at our work session. You're planning on dedicating certain of these spots for your use of your property, right? Is that?
No, the spaces that are on our property would be for the restaurant, the spaces that are on the village property would be for the village to use in any manner they choose.
Right.
And I think
So
we
it might,
spoke
it'll
to,
increase a certain number, if the village wants to continue as tag parking, well, the village will get a certain number of additional
Yeah,
parking
correct,
spaces.
correct,
But what's
yeah.
on your property is for your exclusive use.
Yes.
Yeah. and I think we spoke about a license agreement.
That was one of the things we talked about, correct?
Yeah.
Right, so the license agreement would just be to allow us access through the municipal parking lot onto our parking lot, ultimately. But not a license to use the village land for our purposes, in terms of parking.
Ingress and egress.
Right,
Yeah.
only, yes.
I guess, how do you stop the opposite from happening from, how are you, there's gonna be signage, how do you stop village, someone pulling into municipal lot, not coming to your establishment?
There'll be signage, I mean, for customer use only. I'm sure we'll employ a local towing company.
Okay. And I'm just, might be missing something, but you are still short, so you will need, do you need a variance for parking anyways,
Yeah.
even with these improvements?
But
So
this will be a waiver.
Parking.
This is, yeah,
Yeah.
PC.
Yeah, I mean, it is preliminary, a lot of, I mean, the stairway down to the walkway
The floor plan, yeah.
is neat, but I mean, there's a lot of engineering that has to happen. There might be a any floodplain issues with putting footings and any structures in the floodplain will have to be addressed. The logistics of connecting to the village amenity.
They have to read the easement agreements that were
Yeah.
signed by the village with all the properties.
You know, and
Because they
policing,
wanted to
because
come
right,
into the greenway, so.
right now, you know, policing of the greenway was an issue, so now you have another opening, you know, whether that's.
We spoke about that part of the meeting, you know, we may have some sort of gate or something, so there is a way to prevent that. And also I think, like Stuart said, we had to review the easements.
Right.
I think it goes both ways,
So I
there's
think
easements for a property.
At present, you can gain access to the walkway up at the community center or down by sort of the bottom of Central Ave.
Correct.
Those are
Right.
closed at night, at dusk it's
Dusk it
pretty much
closed.
closed.
Right, so until that changes, if it ever changes, we would lock the stairs
big gate.
in the
Yeah, I
same
think-
manner.
Yeah, because I think what you're proposing is sort of like, hey, how do we get more people down here at, you know, different hours of the day? I mean, you know, there might be
Sure.
somebody at, you know, 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock who might want to walk. So that's, I guess some thought would be given to that. And
That would, I mean, I think that's a bigger conversation that would happen later if this sort of is successful, because that would require, you know, additional lighting, additional policing, trash pickup, you know, it's.
Yeah, one of the things, you know, I guess we're going through the works, you know, this vision of, you know, creating a loop so there's pedestrian flow throughout the village. I mean, I think that's what, not to speak for Peter, but it sounds like that's, you know, your vision is to
Yeah, definitely.
make it more of a walkable community, tie everything together.
Onto the trains.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to the bottom of the Sing Sing Hill Greenway, you have the Westchester Collaborative Theater down there, you have that distillery that's gonna open their tasting room someday, when hopefully, you know, the 6 degrees of separation will reopen at some time. I mean, and those businesses down there could all really use some help,
Peter, are you
so.
classifying these as bars or as restaurants? 'Cause I think there's an issue with zoning with bars as opposed to restaurants,
We would,
right?
yeah, because a restaurant is permitted, a bar is conditional. Now, you need conditional anyway because of other work, but, because I think in the application you have bar, restaurant, it just becomes important.
Oh, we're definitely restaurants.
Restaurant
I mean,
bar.
yeah, I mean, we
Fine.
got, I mean, if you
Restaurant
look at the
with a
plan,
bar?
we've got a
Yeah.
significant
No, that's a-
kitchen and almost no bar at all.
Well, it makes a difference in terms of, you know, in terms of the bulk.
Yeah,
that's
we also,
permitted
you
in the
know,
zone.
honestly don't, you know, we would have wine and beer, and
No,
that's
that's-
something
that-
we worked out vis-à-vis the
That's more,
church, so we're.
that's more in
far
terms of
along.
just what you're looking
Yeah.
for in terms of
Yes.
conditional use.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board? Comments from the public?
Yes, please.
Please come on up and tell us your name and address.
Hi everyone, my name is Bridget. I live at 7 Brantwood Street. I've lived there since 1999. I think this is wonderful. However, my concern is the traffic. Right now, we're getting ticketed left and right if we park on the street overnight. If we park in a day spot, in my purse I have a petition to the mayor because we're trying to get some day spots converted to overnight spots because we're so tired of being ticketed, and I feel like as wonderful as this is, it's gonna add to our personal issues of parking. If I come home during the day, there's no place to park. If I go home, when I leave here, the lot is probably gonna be filled, and I feel like that is an issue that has not been addressed. Our parking has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller over the years. We had 2 lots, now we have 1, and now it looks like we're about to have even less. We have pretty much very little street parking. So I would like some consideration to be given to that.
Do you have an off-street spot now where you live, or? Are there
Yes.
off-street spots?
It's
that
tag
exist?
parking.
No, what I'm saying is where you live, is there off-street parking? Is there
What do you mean
parking
by
lot or
off-street
driveway?
parking?
Can you park where you live?
No,
off
it's
the
no
public
sign.
street?
No.
Sorry that I get it.
No, come on up. This is my neighbor. She lives at number 9.
No, no.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty familiar with that location.
Right.
I know there's not a lot of curb cuts and off-street parking, so.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Great, thank you.
Yvonne Bunchford from 11 Brandon Street.
and I'm standing to speak in opposition to this restaurant bar. Brandon Street, well, my parents purchased a home there 75 plus years ago. It's just a small street between Main and Broadway. 4 private homes and a small church on one side of the street. At the top, they have a converted apartment building now, and at the far end, Lincoln School was converted into a nice pricey condo. There's only parking on one side of the street. Well, our main issue is, one, we don't need another restaurant and bar. We need housing in Ossining. We need to try to keep people in Ossining. Restaurants are opening up and down the street, Mainspring and Croton Avenue, all over. We don't have a lot of housing. I would hate to see a housing situation change. I guess there are maybe 5 or 6 families that live in that 14, 16, which is across the street from the other houses. There are no other houses on that side. I think when I was growing up, I think we probably had parking on both sides. Now there's only parking on one side. It's only about 6 spaces. And it's used all during the day by those who work in the village because there are no signs, so it's unlimited parking. So I have no problem with that. For the residents who live on Brandon Street, you have to get the tag for overnight parking to park up on Leonard Street. Part of that upper lot is used by Open Door employees. That was an arrangement made many years ago, so that is used. This proposed bar and restaurant would be diagonally across the street from the church. I just got the notice yesterday. I don't know what happened, but I just received, so I made sure I came up here tonight to speak about it. Let's see. There's a lot of, I believe, the other neighbor mentioned traffic. There's a lot of, it's a small street. It's a shortcut from Main Street to Broadway to Ann Street to Aqueduct Street. It's like a speedway.
Yes.
I can't imagine more traffic coming on that little street. It's dangerous enough as it is, and as I said, it's just parking on one side, barely enough room for cars to be going in both directions. Usually one pulls over and slows down so another car can come through. So I really am not in favor of this project.
Appreciate your comments.
Coming to take over this little quiet neighborhood.
I appreciate your comments. I think they'll be taken into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
For the study.
I just wanted to clarify 2 things.
JB, this is one.
I'm Marisol again, and I live in 9 Brandon since 1986. They're both my neighbors. Brandon, unfortunately, we don't have no driveway, so we had to park the cars either in the front sometimes in the mornings, not overnight because we get tickets, or because the street doesn't have a sign. So if it doesn't have a sign, we get tickets. That's according to the police department. Across the street, we have the tag parking. You could park overnight, you could park during the day. The workers could park during the day, but if we don't have a personal tag, we can't park there during the days. There is not only our homes on the right side of the project coming to be, there's a church as well. And also there is new construction, which is 500, that has it has no parking either, and it has about more than 10 tenants. Then they have another across the street. I don't know what the name of the address.
Main Street, yes.
It's a whole building that has maybe 10 parkings for more than 12 apartments. They all also parking there. There's no parking. There's another additional parking on the back. You could park certain times, but not overnight. So it will be a good idea if they wanted to do parking that should be checked, that they could convert it to tax so everybody else could park. I had no objection with the project. I think it's good things coming to Ossining. I love to walk. I've been walking to the Sing Sing Kill. I love it. It's just great. The bar part, the only concerns that I have, I live everything, you could hear everything. So you could talk from across the street. We have also already a bar on the other side of the boardwalk, the aqueduct, and you could hear them at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. It's annoying a little bit. So if it's little, I know it's gonna be in the basement, maybe you could put sound proof. But the bar, I don't drink, so I'm not a favor.
So
So the parking is the more
I think we hear
concern.
you parking and, noise and bar.
But it's a good idea, what they wanted to do, the little path going down the Sing Sing Kill, I think is a great idea. I've been living there, I enjoy every minute to be there. I agreed also with my other neighbors. We are concerned about the parking, we've been there all this time. But also, we need to give the opportunity to other people to bring things, because Austin is always behind. I love Tarrytown, because there's a lot of restaurant, even though it's restaurants or whatever it is. The bar, I'm not too happy about it, but if they could do a family restaurant, it would be okay. I'm not opposed. I think I welcome them, but something has to do with the parking. You mentioned that you're gonna do parking on the green side of the between the aqueduct and your premises behind? So
Right,
you're gonna take all that green?
Not all, most of the trees will
Because
still
there's not
be.
much space there.
There's a plateau.
So we're
basement,
not
nothing.
gonna really come, the outcome tonight is not to have a final design.
Okay, no, I'm just-
But we're allowing everybody from the public to kind of express their concerns, and I think we've done that, so.
All right, so,
This will continue, and we appreciate your comments.
thank you and have a good night.
I just wanted to clarify, point out a couple things that we are now removing the existing 5 units, so the changes along Brandon, the architectural that you see from Brandon does stay as it is. We're not proposing any changes there. And also to point out that we are adding 8 parking spaces to the public parking. So that's.
If you could just leave that up there for a second, just relating to your comment about a bar, I assume the bar you're talking about here is Karma Lounge. This is not gonna be Karma Lounge. If you look, that's what we're proposing right there. It's a big show kitchen for, us to ultimately attract a serious chef to do something serious. There's a small bar there just to sort of enjoy the view, which would probably just be wine. It's a very different thing that we're proposing. Vis-a-vis the parking, our goal here is really to create something which is pedestrian oriented. We don't want people to drive into Ossining, park their cars, go to a restaurant and leave. We want people to come in, walk around, potentially patronize other businesses in Ossining. We're looking to have people coming off the Sing Sing Kill Greenway, coming off the Croton Aqueduct Trail. The last thing on earth we want is to have what 3 Westerly is, which is people come, drive in, park their cars, eat, and they're gone. There's no interaction with the village of Ossining at all. So it's not remotely the goal of what we're trying to do here. And certainly, this is not a bar masquerading as a restaurant. This is a restaurant which has an accessory area, which is a small bar.
Okay, great. I think we're good. I think at this point, we want to just,
We should get out notice of intent.
Notice of intent?
Which we will.
Possibly tonight.
Which we'll take care of with that.
Okay, so notice of intent, and I think next month we'll be able to declare ourselves lead agency, if there's any other zoning board issues or anything.
We're gonna need zoning board for a minimum 2 items, which is the proximity to the Sing Sing Kill. So we are doing work within 25 feet of
The
water course.
And also you need the aqueduct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll continue on next month. Great. Thanks, guys. We're done, I think, so I think we just have to approve minutes.
And we have that informal with any.
Yeah, we'll do. Basically, for that opportunity with the minutes, approval of the minutes, all in favor?
Aye.
Dean and I'm. So we're done, so next we have an informal